Stay tuned after the episode to hear our latest edition of And Then What?
Six boots and four paws boot pack their way up Galena Peak's ridge, enjoying the springtime glory of corn snow near its perfect window. Rays of sun glistened off Revy's wagging tail, perhaps the only thing more joyful than the look on the faces of the three humans who accompanied her. For me and my ski partners Lucy and Terry, the prospect of perfect corn skiing in one of our favorite peaks, Southwest Bowl, got us to mobilize quickly. On the boot pack, we started chatting about the impending summer. "I don't know what I'll do," I answered to my friend's inquiry, expressing my listlessness about the upcoming end of my avalanche forecasting season. I had moved to Idaho's Sawtooth Mountains for the winter job, and after working for the Park Service in the summer for the better part of a decade, that era had come to a close for me. But now what? "What about traveling?" Lucy proposed. "Well, I thought about going to Patagonia," I told her. I'd recently heard about a new avalanche center down there, and I'd always wanted to visit the area. But I haven't done enough research. Plus, I didn't have a partner lined up. I continued to make excuse after excuse to live an ordinary life. It'd been a tough couple of years, and some of my spark had dimmed a bit. I still was climbing and skiing almost every day, but my imagination and fire for leaping into the unknown felt a bit less bright. A calm, predictable summer in Bozeman, taking nursing classes, playing it safe, that sounded a bit more comfortable. I can't go this year. An acquaintance turned new friend and ski partner. Terry looked at me with a knowing sideways smile and a slight turn of his head. The look of someone who understands the choices you have to make to live an extraordinary life. He nonchalantly replied, "I still haven't heard a reason as to why not." Less than 2 months, but what felt like a lifetime later, I finally found myself with a moment to breathe on my third of 4 flights, heading farther south than I'd ever been. After galloping my way through tight connections and the Atlanta and Lima airports, ski boots flapping over the top of my shoulders like a cowboy's spurred boots, I had some time to crack open my journal. I started scribbling down some rules to frame my intentions for the trip. Number 1, no specific objectives. Do research, but just show up, observe the terrain, culture, the snowpack, and see what appeals to you. Draw lines on maps and then go see what they look like in real life. Number 2, no specific plans. My only formal commitment was to the Avalanche Center. Dates, timelines, all out the window. Say yes when opportunities present themselves. Because, why not? Number 3, be open-minded to learning, teaching, and growing. Ski with as many different people of as many different backgrounds as possible. And number 4, perhaps the most important, remember, skiing is a vehicle to create memories. It isn't the whole story. Pink smelded into orange rainbow sherbet as the morning sun awoke from its feathery bed of clouds outside my plane window. My stomach turned with the bright excitement of adventure and the unknown. But what if things go wrong? I used to be better at welcoming just the buzzing excitement, but with a hefty dose of complex grief mixed in lately, this new emotional cocktail was a little harder to digest. The recent losses of multiple friends in the mountains the past couple years, including Terry that spring, made the reality of that all the more real. I wanted to follow my rules, but maybe this was a bad idea. I looked back down at my journal. Say yes, I had written. Because, why not? The remise I took from the airport must have looked like an Argentine clown car as I dumped my ski bag and duffel on the curb next to the apartment that would be my home base for the next few months. With frugality as a center point for any seasonal worker, I was a good 45-minute walk from the town center, but the cheaper rent left me with a close enough walk to the local cerveceria to find some dinner. As I sat down with my IPA, the Spanish pronunciation of IPA, and waited for my first Milanesa from the kitchen, my phone dinged. Hey, heard you were coming to Bariloche, my old friend and ski partner from the Eastern Sierra sent. We're here and walking into Refugio Frei tomorrow for a couple of nights if you want to join. We only have a handful of days left in Argentina. We've been taking the bus, which a Sube card is its own thing you'll have to sort out. Maybe a shop is open tonight? Anyway, let us know. Jet lag was already doing its best to pull the curtains down over my eyes. I didn't even have any food yet. Where could I even find food for a hut trip? And what in the world is a Sube card? Then I remembered my own rules. Why not? I waved over the bartender. Para llevar, por favor. Time to pack up my food and get started. ¿Estás cansada? He teased, betting I was on my way to bed. The next afternoon, I pulled out my bag of 36 empanadas at Refugio Frei as Forrest and Jackie neatly unpacked their well-thought-out meals. When you said you were coming, we were wondering how you managed to pull it off, they said, not even trying to hide their smiles. Turns out, one of the only places with packable food open late at night on the outskirts of Bariloche was an empanaderia. When I went in there and asked for tres docenas, the guy behind the counter smiled at me and asked, ¿Tres empanadas? I had to clarify that, despite my horrible accent in the Castellano Spanish used in Argentina, no, I wanted 3 dozen empanadas. And, yes, they were all for me. There was an apple in my bag as well, which I found at the fruit store next to the bus stop the following morning. For health, of course. After spending the whole next day skiing stable conditions down couloirs with world-class routes drawn on the granite above us, I was not only happy to have made the effort, I was absolutely certain that the empanada is, in fact, the world's greatest pocket snack. The sunset turned the granite spires above Laguna Tonchek into golden stems of the sky's blossom. Forrest and Jackie decided to go up for an extra run while I raced across the lake to catch the last of the sunset for some painting outside our stone hut home. My helmet was still on my head from my last run as I dove into my bag to retrieve watercolors. Latching my helmet onto my backpack, a woman came outside in a similarly duct-taped parka. Tu casco, she motioned towards my helmet. ¿Eres escaladora también? It turned out my new friend was a climbing, skiing artist from Chile, and we had more in common than our initial barrier of Spanish dialects would let on. After spending most of the night struggling my way through Chilean Spanish with her group, which, if you've ever heard either, is an entirely different ballgame than Castellano, she asked what my plans were for the next few days. I talked to the guys, she told me in Spanish. Do you want to ski with us? Forrest and Jackie were leaving, and my empanadas were running low. Then I thought back to that day on Galena Peak, and before I knew what I was saying, ¿por qué no? Left my lips, and a roar of boisterous cheering flowed, along with more Malbec. A few nights later, my pen glided over my sketchbook pad when one of my new Chilean friends peered over my shoulder at my drawing of the Chaltén Massif. We didn't know each other well, but the past handful of days taught us we have the same appetite for vertical gain, passion for perfectly set skin tracks, and a similar risk tolerance. ¿Vas a ir a Chaltén también?" he asked. I told him it's at the top of my list for the trip, but I still didn't have a partner. "Ah, no plan. Me gusta el no plan también," he joked. He went on to tell me that he had some guiding work in Chile the next month or two, but we should meet down in Chaltén in a few months to ski together. Signed, sealed, and solidified with some shared mate, pizza, and beer after we got back to the trailhead. Because, well, you know, ¿por qué no? The rest of my time in Bariloche was filled with these sorts of chance encounters with proposition punchlines, and needing to take a leap of faith to see what's on the other side. A friend from Montana suggested that I meet her similarly minded friend who was arriving in town. After sharing a brief coffee, we set out on a 4-day ski traverse together, where we shared a 2-person tent. And had a ball. A friend from Yosemite introduced me to his friend via text, with whom I went on a ski traverse. We ended up spending a large chunk of the rest of the trip, including a multi-day hitchhike up Route 40 to climb a couple of months later with. Nothing like a South American romance. Friends started texting me from the States. "Hey, I'm thinking about coming down for a week or two. Think we can ski?" More trips and silly adventures and misadventures arose from the space my rules for the trip left open. Finally, when my time in Bariloche was coming to an end, my friend Kira and I were debating when to head down to El Chaltén. The weather on the volcanoes in Chile, surprisingly, looked worse than on the spires of Argentina. We saw a weather window in the mountains of Chaltén open up and flew to El Calafate early the next morning, less than 12 hours later. Guanacos bounced along the desolate highway between El Calafate and El Chaltén. It was almost as if they were gliding a bit on the gale force winds every jump, their fur a type of built-in paraglider. On our plane ride in, we initially got eyes on the Chaltén Massif from the air. Fitzroy in all its glory, Poinsonneau, Saint-Exupéry, but the range was behind a curtain of clouds from the road. While there's great Spanish music in Argentina, anyone who's listened to the radio down there knows they dig some North American classics. I've had the time of my life from Dirty Dancing came on as we were less than an hour from town. As if Patrick Swayze himself planned the scene, my friend shouted out from the passenger seat, "There it is! Pull over! Pull over!" We hopped out of the car on the side of the road, the storied wind slamming our car door shut and nearly knocking us over. I looked towards Fitzroy and saw it starting to take shape through a thinning veil of clouds. But not quite enough was visible for my ski partner to sound quite that excited. "Look up," she instructed me. "Look up! Look up!" My eyes turned up to see the moon sliding almost perfectly centered across the sun, right as Fitzroy stepped out of the shadows and onto the front stage. We both looked at each other with grins that could swallow any problem in the world. The joy of something so perfect, we never could have planned it. We jumped up and down, pointing, laughing, and slowly starting to cry. This is what I'd come for. My mind softly floated back to the boot pack on Galena. Terry was smiling at me with that same knowing smile. As the eclipse peaked and the whole range popped with diffusing sun rays beaming down, I finally realized my spark had reignited in a way it hadn't in years. An extraordinary life is not happened upon. An extraordinary life is built by the choices we make to remain soft and open when the world gives us ample excuses to become hard and closed off. Each time I said yes, not knowing what came next, I left space for the unexpected. I had had enough unexpected bad in the past couple of years that I stopped wanting to lean into those chances. But when we leave space for the unexpected bad, we also leave space for the unexpected good. And that is what lights our souls on fire. It's kind of late, and I know we're tired, my friend said as we ate some food in town. But the weather looks good tomorrow. I bet we could ski something big. I finally had the same knowing smile on my face. Why not? I'm Brooke Maushund, and this is my short.
After the break, we head to New England to lace up our skates and hit the ice. For over 40 years, Darn Tough has been making socks in Vermont from yarn sourced from America and around the world. They pride themselves on using merino wool to create a durable sock, and they back it up with an unconditional guarantee for life. I'm here to tell you that I break things, I destroy things, and so far, my Darn Tough socks are going strong. I've been putting them through the paces recently. I'm halfway through the training for a marathon, but I've kind of just been wearing them everywhere, and I dig them. They have a variety of styles and different cushioning patterns to fit your preference. It's pretty sweet. So whether it's thin or kind of a little thicker, longer, you can find the sock that works for you. Darn Tough is offering free shipping of any order to Diaries listeners. Use the code DIRTBAG at checkout. We'll put the link in the show note, or visit darntough.com to find your new favorite pair of socks. Your feet deserve it. Thanks to Darn Tough for supporting the show. I do destroy stuff. That is not a joke. Support for the Diaries comes from Kuat Racks. With winter here, it's time to switch it up. Or down. The Switch Ski and Snowboard Roof Rack lets you switch it up for loading and getting gear to the mountain, and then switch it down for aerodynamic commuting around town. It's pretty sweet. You should check it out. There's a link in the show notes. It's available in 2 different sizes. The Switch mounts securely to most roof bars and includes integrated locks, so your stuff doesn't get ripped off. And it's covered by a no-worries limited warranty. It's a win-win-win. Good gear hauling, aerodynamic, secure. Kuat, because you love your gear. Everybody hikes. No matter what sport you're doing out there, you're going to do a little hiking. It's awesome. Moving through the woods, spending time on the trail with a friend, with a family member, even a new friend. Oboz Footwear knows nothing in the world unifies the human-nature connection more than the shared love of hiking. Oboz set up camp in the legendary hiking and backpacking hub of Bozeman, Montana. With millions of acres of peaks, valleys, rivers, and the greater Yellowstone ecosystem in their backyard, Oboz has made the most out of its natural R&D lab. They create footwear that delivers unmatched fit, unrivaled feel, and exceptional performance to give you the tools you need to get out there and really love hiking. To find your next pair of footwear, check out obozfootwear.com/lovehiking. Thanks, Oboz, for supporting the show. All right, this year is action-packed with me. There's a ton of travel. One of my favorite parts about traveling is I enjoy the food wherever I am. I eat what I'm served. But that's it. I know I need to take care of myself, so Kachava's been my little extra super tool. I just got back from Japan. I brought it, had Kachava every single day as sort of a supplement to keep me full. We were out in the mountains, moving around, traveling, exploring. Sometimes big runs in the city. Basically, it helps me balance my nutritional needs. Kachava's whole body meal shake keeps your body and mind nourished all day. With 2 scoops of Kachava, you get 85 plus superfoods, nutrients, and plant-based ingredients. And with vitamin C and zinc and probiotics, I'm giving my immune system a little extra nourishment as I travel, which we all know we need. You can try Kachava risk-free with their Love It guarantee. Whatever your goal is this year, stick with it. Goals are good. Go to kachava.com and use the code DIARIES for 15% off. That's Kachava, KACHAVA.com, code DIARIES for 15% off.
Early every winter, as the sun shines tepidly from its low angle, and the nights clutch the land in a breathtaking frost, ice begins to cover the 6,000 lakes and ponds in Maine. Starting as a thin sheen on puddles, this ice grows thicker throughout the winter, growing sometimes by an inch every 24 hours. The ice eventually forms a snow-crusted surface sturdy enough to support pickup trucks and fishing shacks. In that fleeting period between the start of winter's deep chill and the earnest accumulation of snow, Mainers may be lucky enough to take part in a hallowed tradition: wild ice skating. Wild ice forms at its own pace, defying modern expectations for convenience and predictability. A lake may provide marble-smooth ice in the middle of December one year and hold that perfectly textured ice for weeks. The next year, the same lake may only host a few raggedy days of jaw-clattering skating. For skatable ice to form, several weather patterns need to align. First, and most obviously, the days and nights need to be cold, ideally well below freezing. Second, the winds should be minimal. Strong winds will slow ice formation on the moving waters, and the ice that forms will have a choppy, orange peel texture, tripping and frustrating even the most seasoned skaters. Third, no snowfall. Snow soon bonds with the ice, forming a crusty outer layer more suitable to skiing or snowmobiling. When these three patterns align perfectly, skaters are treated to black ice, the champagne of wild ice. Bladed feet pass inches above the dark depths of a slumbering lake and crisscross an ephemeral path heading in infinite directions. Wild ice has been a bond for my community and a teacher in my quest to process my climate anxieties and grief. When I was a child, the start of the wild ice season usually began with a phone call. One of Dad's crazy friends would be on the line. Some character was always pushing the limit, seeking the sublime experience of unblemished ice and occasionally soaking themselves in the act. As email became more common, word spread about skatable ice through long sonnets crafted by one of these friends, praising the miracle of wild ice. Dad would head out for an exploratory mission when he got these reports, usually with ice picks in hand, in case the early season optimism proved delusional. If he felt the ice was thick enough, he would not delay. A snowstorm or warm stretch could ruin the ice, and who knew if we'd get another window that winter? Dad and Mom bundled up me and my sister, and we were out the door at the earliest report of safe skating. I grew up in the mid-coast region of Maine. Tucked below the Camden Hills, only a few miles inland from the cold, salty air coming off Penobscot Bay, lie an abundance of small ponds and lakes. These waters were a playground for my friends and family in the summer. Transformed to their solid form in the winter, they provided a memorable marker of the seasons. Our skating forays began at a hidden bog high on a thickly wooded hill. The frigid alpine air and shallow waters of the bog provided the safest early season ice. As the cold persisted, we ventured to the deeper waters of Knight's Pond, Norton's, Lily, and places too private to name. Frenzied calls came from family friends, reporting their outings and urging us to join the next day. If the ice was good during the work week, Dad would take off an hour at lunch, unwilling to let his job hold him back from enjoying this precious season. In exceptional years, Lake Megunticook froze solid before heavy snowfall. Appearing on a map like a splatter of paint, this lake provided miles of skating, with islands and hidden coves to explore. As the largest and deepest body of water in the area, Megunticook was the last to freeze, often reaching a safe thickness only after snow had distorted its surface. In rare winters, we were treated to black ice on Megunticook, and the community buzzed with joy and gratitude. In January 2018, the last winter I was able to skate on this lake, we were gifted a week of pristine ice. The lake was dotted with games of hockey, graceful old couples, tentative young families, and my dad and his friends ripping across the glassy surface at a breathtaking clip, skate sails in hand. I recognized nearly everyone, despite the layers protecting us from the cold. Our ecstatic conversations reflected the awe that each of us felt to be out on this grand lake, enjoying the landscape in such a rare and fleeting form. I moved away from Maine after college and settled in Boston. At a lower latitude, the winters have never been as severe in Boston. However, the tradition of wild ice skating is just as rich and important. In my quest to find wild ice, I became aware of how fast our winters were warming. I felt a profound emotional toll from this change. I scouted out several promising ponds when I moved to Boston and sharpened my skates in the fall. I read an inspiring blog post from a guy in the early years of the internet who described traveling almost 50 miles on frozen inland waterways north of the city. When December arrived, I checked the weather obsessively. I waited and became increasingly glum. Several days cold enough to produce a skim of ice would be punctuated by a blast of unseasonable warmth. While runners in t-shirts trotted along the banks of the Charles River, I felt a grip of anxiety deep in my chest, and a voice in my head urgently whispered, "Something is wrong. Something is wrong." The longer the water remained open, the deeper I fell into sadness. Winter had arrived, my favorite season, and all I felt was loss. My childhood memories of winter included thick ice, cold that numbed any exposed skin, and heavy snow that blanketed the ground from December to March. My first Boston winters were marked by dead brown grass, an occasional snowstorm, and a quick melt in the warm days that followed. While some of the ponds froze, I wasn't convinced they were safe, so my skates sat sharpened and neglected in my closet. I avoided looking at them in the depth of this false winter. Occasionally, I went to a rink, but the stifling monotony of enforced circles left me unfulfilled. In the darkest, coldest days of the year, skating on a lake or skiing in the woods connects me to the rhythms of the land and nourishes my relationship with my body and my winter-loving family and community. While New Englanders have so far experienced many markers of climate change, the disappearance of snow and ice has been the most noticeable for me. Winters are the fastest warming season in New England. Our annual snowpack has been shrinking, as has the length of time that lakes and ponds are frozen. While climate scientists have produced important diagrams and graphs showing this change, I am more struck by the stories. My aunt told me about skating in Portland, Maine on Thanksgiving in the 1970s. Skating before mid-December is now rare, and I've never seen ice around Portland in November. My cousin's partner grew up skating on a pond in their backyard in southern Connecticut 30 years ago. Skating was an annual family tradition, but it's now been almost a decade since they were able to safely get on the ice. In the suburbs of hockey-crazed Boston, a friend trained on a homemade rink their family set up. After too many warm winters, they decided the rink was no longer worth the trouble. Ice skating is an activity that has defined the way generations of New Englanders have perceived and experienced winter. In the far southern part of our region, the sport has effectively disappeared, confined now to Zambonied rinks. What happens when an activity that marks the passing of the season disappears? After 3 years of waiting, a window opened in the middle of one surprisingly frigid January. The temperature stubbornly refused to budge above freezing, and I heard reports of frozen water creep closer to Boston. I loaded my skates in a pack and biked over to a nearby pond. My body hummed with excitement, but I was unwilling to let my hopes get too high. When I arrived, the scene I beheld threw me back to childhood. A squad of college students yelled jovially over a heated game of hockey. An elegant figure skater pirouetted and pranced across the ice, leaving fine, sweeping indentations on the glistening surface. An older man shuffled slowly along in ancient skates, beaming at everyone he passed. The pond appeared as a stage, with essentially the same actors for decades. Despite the lapse in opportunities the past few years, all the actors were ready to resume their roles in this vibrant winter scene. I spent 2 blissful afternoons skating before warm weather sapped the ice of its glossy texture. Understanding how precious this experience was, I soaked in every moment and filled my cup in just a brief period of time. As I continue to contend with the impacts of climate change on my beloved pastimes, I carry this lesson forward. I may only get 1 day of wild ice skating in a winter, but when it comes, I will be ready, and I will give myself fully to the day. While the sense of loss may threaten to consume me at times, I know that mere hours on ice will ground me once again to the passing of the season, and nourish my winter-loving soul. I moved back to Maine recently, and last winter was the best wild ice we've had in decades. As I drove to explore a new pond, I was fairly certain about what I would find. Sure enough, as if the curtains had just been opened, a rich cast of characters assumed center stage, skating and sliding, cackling and falling, moving fast and slow and chaotically, and with stunning synchronicity. I laced up my skates, breathed the cold air into my lungs, and took my first tender step on the ice. I moved slowly at first, then faster, letting my legs push powerfully from one side to the other, swinging my arms in rhythm. With each glide, I felt a bond grow and strengthen. A bond to the pond, to my community of skaters, and to the winter season. I'm Carrick Gambell, and this is my short.
Thank you, Brooke and Carrick, for sharing your shorts. This winter, Brooke is in Salt Lake working as an avalanche forecaster for the Utah Avalanche Center, and Carrick is enjoying one of the best winters the Northeast has seen in quite a long time. Our stories come from friends of friends, and from you, our community. If you have a compelling idea for a guest or story lead, please give us a shout. You can email us at editor@ducktapethenbeer.com. Music today from David Swenson, The Brow, Joya, Holly Hillies, Boss Fight, JV and the Super Molten, Alabasi, Padelm, David Katz, and Dame Asu. The tracks are courtesy of the artist or Track Club. Jacob Bain and Niskoto composed our theme song. You can find the links to the artists at our website, dirtbagdiaries.com. This episode was produced by Lauren Delani Miller with additional production help from Becca Cahal. Becca is also our executive producer. I'm Fitz Cahal, and you've been listening to the Dirtbag Diaries. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to And Then What, the segment where we break down the headlines, figure out what the hell's happened since then. Hey everyone, we started the And Then What series to cover some of the threats to the landscapes we have a shared love for. And all of you who have been listening, and it's a lot of you, we're continually impressed by that, you've taken action, and it's incredible. Today, we have some good news for you. I know, crazy, right? Good news. At the end of 2024, we shared the story of Cochimo and the broader Chilean region of Patagonia, Puchagin, and the efforts of locals to protect one of the world's truly incredible places. It's often referred to as the Yosemite of South America. Locals down there like to think of Yosemite as the Cochimo of North America. Either way, it helps paint a picture. It's an incredible place. When 330,000 acres went up for sale for $150 million at Christie's Real Estate, the crew at Conservation Puchagin had a wild thought. Could we buy it and turn it into a park and protect it permanently? Now, 2 years later, Guess what? They did it. We sat down with Brady Robinson of the Freya Foundation, who you may remember from the original broadcast, to get the update. Incredible things are possible when we come together, listen to each other, and then make it happen.
The last time we talked, Brady, I think it was late 2024, the price had been set for this spectacular piece of land in Chilean Patagonia, Puchiguin, 300,000 acres, includes the Cochimo Valley, this huge area. I mean, how do you even start to fundraise for something like this? The numbers just are so big.
So in late 2024, we had a purchase agreement for the purchase price of $63 million, and we had a few kind of anchor donors in, but we had a long ways to go. We just fully committed. And the coalition, it was incredible. It was Freya Foundation, Pueblo Patagonia, the local Chileans leading things, the Weiss Foundation, the Nature Conservancy, both their Chile team and their international team, and then Patagonia Inc. And we all just started working and meeting as a group, and we raised a bunch of money. As of today, we're at over $82 million and very close to our original goal of $88 million. And that included the purchase price of $63 million and about $25 million of project costs and a $12 million endowment to help ensure that this project is funded and protected into perpetuity. I mean, it feels great. And there's like an anatomy to, like, if you're in a nonprofit and you're kind of doing things the normal way, there's an anatomy to these big capital campaigns. You retain consultants and they prepare a feasibility study and they carefully test all the donors and they go through we did none of that. This was like total YOLO, go for it. The answer to how is yes, here we go, we're going. And everybody we worked with at Nature Conservancy said, we've never been part of anything like this before. To go from within 3 years, basically, of it being listed on Christie's for $150 million and having no coalition, to building a coalition, negotiating, figuring out how to work together, incorporating a new entity to hold title to the property, buying it, and now it's held by Fundación Conserva Puchiguin. It was just an incredible adventure. And when I go back and look at some of the briefing documents from 3 years ago, we had no idea. We had no clue we were going to be able to pull this off.
I wanted to ask you about what this whole kind of experience has taught you about the value of working with local communities, because like you mentioned, you have some of these huge businesses and foundations on one side, and then on the other side, you've got a group of Chilean locals who just love this place and want to see it protected. What have you learned about how those huge organizations and local communities, grassroots level, can like come together and make such a cool partnership?
Well, first of all, these are exceptional people. You know, the leaders in Pueblo Patagonia. So they're bright, capable, incredible people. Andres, Rodrigo, Jose, Josefina. You know, they were small NGO that was very scrappy and grassroots activists preventing bad things from happening, preventing real estate developments, preventing at least 2 hydroelectric dams. I learned what little NGOs and local grassroots organizations are good at and what big NGOs can be good at. And sometimes it's hard for one side to see the value in the other because they're coming at things from very different perspectives. Coalition work is slower sometimes, and building trust takes time. I mean, these all sound like platitudes, but they're all true. You know, if you can imagine, you know, a little NGO, what the first meetings with the Nature Conservancy were like. I mean, there's just a lot of, they've all heard about things about each other. There's a lot of trust to be built. I mean, it took a few years, and we did it together. And I think some people at the Nature Conservancy said that they think the way that they do their work will change as a function of this project. So there was something about this project and this place that was so compelling that I think brought out the best in everyone. And I also think it was just clear that we needed each other. When there's something really exciting that gets everybody fired up and that's bigger than themselves, it brings out the best in us.
I'm curious to hear more about what some of those specifics are, because I feel like it can feel a little overwhelming, for listeners who might be in a place trying to protect a place that they love, that's in their local community, and it feels kind of intimidating, to feel like, what do we bring to the table? We don't have that sort of money. We don't have that sort of, human power.
Well, what locals bring to the table is passion and commitment. They stood up to protect this place, not as a career choice, but as a moral and lifestyle choice. Anyone listening, that is what you bring to the table. That's one thing you can bring to the table if there's a place that you know and are passionate about that you want to protect. We had donors from $100 up to well over $15 million, individual donors. And sometimes people say, well, why? How could I have made a difference, in light of people giving away that kind of money that I can only dream of? And to that, I'd say this. The Pueblo Patagonia has been around for over 10 years, and they lived on about $100,000 a year or less. And so the only reason that there is a project is because they were there getting grassroots support from people giving $100 gifts. And it hadn't been for the people that had been supporting them financially, there'd be a hydroelectric dam in the project area right now, under construction, maybe flooding as we speak. There would most likely be a real estate development in Cochimo Valley proper, maybe with a road. I mean, it's like, it almost happened. And so I'd say grassroots activism, grassroots philanthropy, people giving relatively small amounts to organizations that they believe in. This couldn't happen without that. And that created an environment in which the bigger donors could come in and put the kind of money on the table that allowed us to purchase it and take it out of play. I think the other thing that's been really interesting to see is, Doug and Chris Tompkins loom large in the history of conservation in Chilean Patagonia, of course. And a project like this never would have happened without them and without their example. And yet this was different. There were obviously American donors behind this, but there were also a lot of Chilean donors, and there were Chileans negotiating. Jose Claro did not come up as a professional conservationist. He's from Chile. He's the one who negotiated this deal with Roberto Hageman. He's been in the national news. A lot of the leaders who've been associated with this are like minor celebrities in Chile now, and I think it's changed the national narrative that conservation can come out of grassroots efforts led by Chileans. It's not necessarily something that happens when wealthy North Americans who are fascinated with the mystique of Patagonia come in, and this was different.
What happens now?
Well, we're in transition. There's plenty of work to do, but to our credit, we took a pause and took a moment to celebrate. And now it's the next chapter. Fundación Conserva Puchiguín holds title. The long-term plan is for 80% or more of it to be donated to the state of Chile as a national park within the next 7 years. And 20% of it will remain held by Fundación Conserva Puchiguín and have a conservation easement on it, have the equivalent of a nature sanctuary, basically have different levels of conservation protection on it, but be held by the nonprofit foundation to allow flexibility in management and also in the financing of the project. There's going to be infrastructure built out. We're right now in the middle of the high season. And so, everything's a little bit in flux, and we are changing gears from, fundraising and driving to the closing table to now thinking about long-term sustainability, infrastructure, management, and our financial model. There's a lot to do.
If listeners are still really excited to get involved and to help and to be involved in some way in the continued kind of protection of this place, what would you direct them to?
I think in the coming years, there's going to be more and more trails and infrastructure built out. And I would hope that Cochimo and the surrounding areas becomes part of the kind of known Patagonia trekking circuit. Mm-hmm. There's something called the Horseshoe that I did with my daughter. It's a 7-day trek that we ended in the Cochimo Valley. It was incredible. It was breathtaking. And so while Torres de Paine is great, there's also incredible longer treks and adventures to be had in this region. And the second thing I'd say is, we're working on climbing management. Right now, there's not a whole lot of information out there about the climbing, and I think that'll change in the coming year or two. So there's going to be need for, future visitors to help support the ongoing stewardship of climbing access trails and infrastructure, and also just to come with their very best Leave No Trace principles, well practiced and in hand. If people want to support this project, there's absolutely still a need for additional financial support in both operations and some additional strategic land acquisitions. They can go to Conserva Puchegin, the Conserva Puchegin website, and learn more about ways to donate and to support the project.
We're posting these pieces on our website, dirtbagdiaries.com, in case you want to share. And then what? Thanks to Diaries Plus members for making this reporting possible. Links are on our website and in the recent show notes. Thank you for caring about public lands.